My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop. All right, guys. Welcome back. EYL, legendary episode, I'm pretty sure. So this is a while in the making. So if you're from New York, you've heard of the name Jimmy. It's ironic because it's like Jimmy's one of these names that's one of the probably most popular names in the world. So I mean, Jimmy is like anybody would be named Jimmy, right? But if you're from New York,
there's one Jimmy.
There's one Jimmy. That's a fact.
Jimmy Jones.
Jim Jones. Shout out to Jimmy. But Jim Jones is Jim Jones.
Jim.
Not Jimmy.
This is different. This is different. This is legendary.
So, yeah, man, so many different rappers. Well, you know, AZ. So shout out to Sosa. That comes to the Firm album. Find me at Jimmy's up in the Bronx. So it's just one of these things that just became such a staple in New York, from Jimmy's to Jimmy's Seafood to Don Coqui to Sofrito to Get Soul in New Row to Acri. Did I say that correctly?
Acri, yes.
Acri now back in the Bronx. And Jimmy Rodriguez has a legendary career as a restaurateur. A legendary restaurateur. Believe how long? Over 30 years? Something like that? 20 years?
Let's keep the number down. A little bit more than 40 though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Cultural icon in New York City. So I was in his spot a few months ago, probably like 4 or 5, maybe 6 months ago. I don't know, a while back. And I was with a good friend of mine. Shout out to Taylor.
Chuck, what up?
And we was in there and we was waiting. They was full. So we was sitting at the couch, like just waiting for, you know, somebody to seat us. So the waitress comes over, like, you know, we got some shots for you, like free drinks. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, it comes from Jimmy. I didn't know that it was that Jimmy. So I looked, I'm like, thanks. Cause the last time I saw him, he weighed a lot more weight. So he lost a lot of weight.
That was a different Jimmy.
Yeah, so I didn't recognize. So
heavyweight, that was a heavyweight. Yeah.
He gave me, you know, the mafia nod, like, what's up? I'm like, what's up? So long story short, it turns out that his son is a huge supporter of Earn Your Leisure, and his son told him, like, that's Earn Your Leisure. You can't have them waiting.
I like that already.
So we chopped it up. He came over, and we spoke for like 2 hours. And, you know, I was just letting him know who we were. We was just, you know, just trading stories. And it was just a really dope experience. And I told him, like, yeah, you got to come on the podcast, man. And he asked me at the time, he's like, I heard you got, you know, a big podcast. He's like, I'm like, yeah, it's number one. And he was like, number one where? And I'm like, in the world.
I'm like, what? How come I don't know about that? You know what I'm saying? My son said, you number one guy. I'm like, really?
And then a couple months later, we hit number one in the world. So I spoke that into existence. So, and then a couple weeks ago, our friends was in there. Shout out to Mike, Bam, Rich, the whole crew.
Natty Ice.
And they was like, yo, you never going to believe who we got to come on Your Leisure. And they FaceTime me. I'm like, I already spoke to him. He said he already committed. We was just waiting for the okay. So long story short, we finally got this done. So I'm looking forward to an exciting conversation. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
I'm excited. You know, just to be part of your show, number one show. And I know your audience wants to hear different topics. And I think that, you know, what I've done over the last 40 years is interesting. You know, I've done it, you know, at different times. And I know there's a lot of people out here that have a Jimmy story.
This is true. I told you before we started that my first ever alcoholic beverage, was at Jimmy's. It was the first time I ever tasted a Long Island iced tea. And for the next 10 years, that's the only thing I had.
Was the only thing I knew. A real ID or fake ID?
I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Statute of limitation is up.
I don't want to get anybody.
But we still got to respect it.
Statue's limited. Yeah, it was a fake ID. It was a fake ID.
We tried our best to make sure that, you know, the IDs were right.
But I looked a lot older. I always had a beard. I always looked a lot older than I was. So credit to your bouncers at the time. They didn't make a mistake.
Yeah. For sure. So I want to talk about a variety of different things. Just, you know, the state of restaurants, you know, and COVID, your experience, all of the different stuff. But I want to go back to where it started. So how did you start? And kind of you just told me you were selling fish in the streets originally. Like, how did you start in the restaurant business?
Well, I started working for my dad as a young kid, about 15, 16 years old. We were selling fish in the street on the Cross Bronx and Webster. But before that was Westchester and Bronx River. And we got kicked out because it was so popular. And we went to the Cross Bronx and Webster under the bridge. And then from there, we rented the building across the street. We started selling fish on the side of the building, and then we took the building over, and that was Marisco. It was Jimmy's Seafood, and then from Jimmy's Seafood, we went to Marisco del Caribe. And then eventually we looked to expand, and we took over the Jimmy's Bronx Cafe on Fordham Road to Major Deacon.
Yeah.
That was a 48,000 square foot building. We tried to borrow the money from everybody and anybody in the world. And I remember buying the building for $2.4 million.
What year was that?
God only knows.
90. So I got it. So that story's pretty crazy, because I read it was 2.5 million, and then Mother Nature took its course.
Yes.
And just kind of like messed the building up a little bit to your favor.
Yes.
And the price got dropped.
It was 3.2, and then we got it for 2.4.
Oh, okay.
And I remember trying to raise the money, and I'm like, we're doing so well at Jimmy's, at Marisco del Caribe. It wouldn't be a problem to, borrow the money from the bank. But every bank that I went to was a roadblock, and it was like red line. You don't lend money to certain people in certain neighborhoods because they cannot be successful. And at the end of the day, I wound up putting the deal together with Leon Katz, and he lent me the money at 24%. I almost had it at 32% from a group in Connecticut, but he gave it to me for $1.1 million. I got 300 from the seller, and then $1 million they held back in paper. So I was paying 24%. And the fun part about it is I remember Leon
You said the fun part?
Yeah, the fun part was in life you have to learn that they're just challenges. It's not how many times you fall, it's how fast you get up.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, I'm going to buy this building. I don't know how, but I'm going to buy the building. So I remember going into contract into the property, and I gave them $300,000. And the $300,000 was from Ruben Sierra. So
the Salsa King.
yes, he was a baseball player, Salsa King. And so he gave me the money as a deposit. He was supposed to be partners with our family. And he backed out. But before he backed out, I borrowed the money from Leon Katz. And the fun story was that Leon Katz he sent his nephew Lenny. And Lenny pulled up, and he looked at the property, and he sees 100 Chinamen working all over the building. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm building my restaurant. He says, but you don't own it. How do you put so many people to work? I said, because like you said, you talk it into existence, you make it happen. So I said, I'm going to own this property. And the only way you're going to believe in me and this property is by me turning around and putting everything on the table. Win all, lose all. And I did that. So he went back. He told his uncle what was going on. He took pictures, looked at some paperwork. And he said, I want to go to your house. I want to see where you live. He came to my house, Mashula Parkway. I want to see your family. He went back and told his uncle he likes the deal. He said, the guy will do the 24%, which 24% is the most interest they could charge.
It's like loan shark.
Yeah, but that's professional loan shark, like the credit card companies.
Yeah.
Doing right now. If they could charge you 50%, they will. So 24% was fine. So he called up, at the time was Freddie Ferrer. He was borough president. And Freddie said, he asked Freddie, what do you know about Jimmy? He's like, that's the Latin restaurant guy. That's what he does. He works every day. He has a family. That's all he does. He says nothing but good things about him. So he goes back, he says, we'll lend you the $1 million, $1.1 million, but you got to come up with $44,000. So I asked my dad for the $44,000. He gave it to me. So basically, we bought this property with $44,000 out of our pocket, besides the money that we used to start the construction. So I went to all my vendors. I says, hey guys, I need some money. Like I buy $100,000 from you. Instead of 30 days, can I go to 90? And they said, nope. So I doubled my order, tripled my orders, and all of a sudden they're like, I can't pay you right now. We're gonna have to work out some payments. So I really basically leveraged every credit card. I borrowed from everybody to make this happen. I remember like a lot of my friends that I would go to, I'm like, dude, can you give me a check for like 20,000? Let it bounce. I just need it to flow. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really want the money. Let it flow. So, you just have to figure out how to do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? I believe there's two ways of doing things in life. There's the right way and the white way. You know what I'm saying? You got to float. You got to do whatever you got to do to make it legal just to get over that piece. So then the fun part about it, so I remember going out to Arizona. That was the first time the World Trade Center got attacked. And I'm sitting with Ruben Sierra and Ricky Henderson. And that's the time I picked up the check so I can get into this deal. So I took $50,000, I put it towards air conditioning, I put $50,000 or $100,000 towards construction. And then Ruben had a brother in Puerto Rico, and he called him and said, I want you to check this property. So he says to him, pull out the deal. I'm like, Ruben calls me and says, like, listen, I got to pull out the deal. I'm like, but why? I said, because my brother called. He didn't tell me the story. So this cab driver, who was a good friend of my mother-in-law, Tato or whatever, he said his brother killed the deal on you. I'm like, what happened? He's like, I found out later that he checked the assessment of the property, not the appraisal. The assessed for tax purposes is different from what appraised property. And it was assessed for $1 million or $1.5 million. So he pulled out of the deal. I said, Ruben, I don't have the money. I'll pay you when eventually I get into this deal. And, I remember like going to 100 black men and asking them for help. And they said, we can help you, but we can't help the whole village. We'll help you because we know who you are, and that's how we'll do it. And I remember like little things that you learn from your elders, the OGs, the Master Gs that come to you, and you always look up to these guys. And that was the beginning of Jimmy's. So eventually that became an amazing property, busiest thing in the world. And then I did Jimmy's downtown, Jimmy's uptown, Jimmy City Island. Which they were all amazing places to go. I remember running up and down around the city. But, one of my craziest stories was stay away from Jimmy's Cafe, where the Yankees, Major League Baseball, was so upset that every major celebrity, basketball, football, hockey, every major celebrity in the world went to Jimmy's. But why? Because I became the caterer for the Yankees. Yeah. So could you imagine feeding every major celebrity star in that came to New York, not only the Yankees, but visiting team. Yeah. So I was voted the best food in America for Clubhouse. So what do you think they wanted to go afterwards with their family? Mine. So instead of them making sure that we wouldn't have problems with none of these celebrity figures, anything, they told them not to come to my place. And that hit the front page. And I went from $300,000 a week to less than $100,000.
So what? So
who started this campaign?
So let's go into this a little bit. So you were in the Yankees clubhouse as a vendor, food vendor.
Yeah.
Because I read that your uncle was the plug, right? Your uncle was the guy that knew the Yankees players.
No, he played. He played the Yankees for 1 or 2 years. I remember him telling me a story where Mickey Mantle let him get his locker right next to him because they really wanted him out the locker room because he was the only Spanish guy there. Oh. So racism within Major League Baseball has always been there. And for me, I'm like, the Yankees, great dynasty, amazing team. But I believe in my heart that they're one of the most racist teams in America. And I mean, you look at the deal that the Yankees got in the Bronx, they ain't giving back. They just keep taking and taking and taking. I mean, it's a sad situation that you get these major companies come into our community, rape it, and put nothing back. You know what I'm saying? But that's a separate story. So the way I got into the Yankee Stadium was, at the time, was an Italian restaurant, and all the food that ever went into the Yankees was Italian. Can you imagine Sylvia's or Jimmy's being in Yankee Stadium? Never going to happen. So one of the ways that happened was Bernie Williams was a rookie. So I'm like, hey, I sent him a stuffed lobster. The next day I sent them the paella and a whole bunch of food. And Derek Jeter's like, we don't want this food. We want this food. And all of a sudden I get a phone call from Lou Cacuzo and Robbie like, yo, we want a meeting with you. I'm like, what's up? It's like, our guys want your food. And that was the beginning where, we just became legendary. I did the Knicks, I did the Mets, and you just have to let people know that, what you do is great, it's quality, and you got to open doors for others. And that was how I got my foot in the door with there. You know what I'm saying?
Bernie Williams, Puerto Rican.
Bernie Williams, Derek Jeter,
Jorge
Posada.
Yeah, Mariano.
Everybody. Mariano. Yeah. I remember the World Series. They went where they going to Jimmy's with their family. That drove people crazy because they wanted to be within their own people.
Yeah. From the outside, it was like, we saw those people going there. And so as the public, it was like, there might be a chance if we go there tonight that we might see Derek Jeter.
You never know who's going to be
You never know who's going to be in there. Plus the jerseys are everywhere. It was like the first place where you had the players would come, they give you the jersey, it's on the wall. It's like, wait, there might be a chance tonight.
Pedro Martinez, Ivan Rodriguez, Tito Puente, Celia Cruz, Mark Anthony, J Lo, Diddy. I mean, you name it.
You missed one guy, the king of the Bronx.
Oh, Joe. That was
Okay,
Joe.
okay.
lived there,
We
you know?
can't.
Grammy. I mean, like, woo, we had stories there. But
Joseph Cartagena.
yes,
Yeah.
we even had Fidel Castro.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I read that in 1995.
Yes.
And that was at the time, Mayor Giuliani is the mayor of New York.
Yes.
They didn't want him eating anywhere in the city.
didn't want-
What's going on, Ernest? Look, at 26, I made one of the most important decisions of my life. That's right. I didn't have family at the time, but I did have a life insurance policy. A wise man told me life insurance isn't about the people who die. It's about the people who live. It's one of the best ways to secure generational wealth for your family's future. And it makes perfect sense why people get life insurance, especially term coverage, which surprisingly is affordable. Why not pay a little bit each month to secure the future of the people you love long term? If you're asking yourself that question, I want you to check out Ladder. Ladder makes it impressively fast and easy to get coverage. You just need a few minutes and a phone or a laptop to apply. Ladder's algorithms work instantly, so you'll know right away if you're approved for coverage. No hidden fees, and you can cancel any time. And since life insurance costs more as you age, now is the time to get started. So check out Ladder today to see if you're instantly approved. Go to ladderlife.com/EYL. That's LADDER life.com/EYL. That's ladderlife.com/EYL. You know how this works. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Secure your family's future right now.
Want him to leave his room. I mean, at the point where he locked him out of everywhere. So it was him and another European Coffee or Nan or something. No, Coffee. He was restricted from everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, Serrano asked me if we could invite Fidel Castro to the Bronx, and would I host it? I'm like, sure. I'm like, I'm already known for the place where unsavory characters go. He is like public enemy number one of the United States is Fidel Castro. Like, how better can I get? Like, I'm going to really. And I remember like deciding the media people, like New York Times. I had more cameras and everything. I was like the most amazing, story. And then the death threats came in and.
To you?
Yeah, of course. Like the Cubans, like, yo, get mad at me. Like, yo, but I'm not in politics. I'm just a restaurant guy. So you have the guys that are for Cuba on this side, and you have the ones against Cuba or Fidel on this side. And the next day after this whole historic meeting where Fidel came to the Bronx, he went to 3 places. He went to Abyssinian Baptist Church, he met with the Times, and he went to Jimmy's. So those are the only 3 places. So no matter what, you can never take away that we had the number one enemy of the United States at that time, which was Fidel, there. And
on Fordham Road.
On Fordham Road. I couldn't get near the place. Yeah, but I tell you, you want to go even crazier. A couple of years later, I went to Cuba for Benny Morel concert, and I was sitting in the audience, and Serrano said, if you're going to meet Fidel again in Cuba, it's going to be at night. He doesn't meet people in the daytime. So I'm not thinking. I just put that in the back of my head. So it was like 10, 11 o'clock at night. Somebody taps me on my shoulder and says, the Comandante would like to see you. I'm like, what?
What's that mean?
Like, he wanted that Comandante is
the commander?
The commander in chief.
Yeah.
So I get out from the hotel. I get out from the concert. They take me in the car. I said, I got a present for him. I know it's his birthday. So I bought him this piece with all these famous baseball pitchers and balls, Nolan Ryan. And so I give it to him, and I go to the White House in Cuba. And we sit down, we have a couple of drinks. And he's like, you hungry? I'm like, hey, if you cook, we eating. They call Chumi. I don't know why I still remember this name. Like so many years later, Chumi. So Chumi comes over. We set it up and we sitting down. I remember drinking goat milk for the first time in my life. And we had a salad and this, that. So we wrap up the meeting. And, I'm a collector of jerseys. Like you could tell, like that's what I collect. So I said, Comandante, if you don't mind, would you allow me to have one of your shirts? Like just for, I could imagine like his shirt.
Yeah.
Like the army shirt? Like the general, yeah.
So he whispers to somebody and he comes back in 2 minutes. And he gives me the jersey, the jacket, and the pants, the fatigues, the whole shabam. I'm like, crazy. So that was my little Fidel story. I had a David Bowie concert there. I mean,
Wow.
So why did the Yankees tell people not to patronize your
It
restaurant?
wasn't the Yankees. It was Major League Baseball.
Why did Major League Baseball tell people not to patronize your restaurant?
Because they felt that unsavory characters visited my place and they didn't want something to happen.
Some street activity.
Right. So in other words, if you have two beepers, you're a drug dealer. You have two phones, you're a drug dealer. You can't have one for business. So I remember one time Walter Harley said he was the head of the Hispanic Police Association and he had two beepers. I guess you were a drug dealer. I said, because you look like one. So at the end of the day, it's like, you don't stop them or unsavory characters going to the Yankees. You don't stop them going to see the Knicks. You don't stop them from going anywhere in New York City. But now you want to stop them from going to Jimmy's because it's out of control. I don't understand. But it cost me a lot. And I remember sitting down with Van Woods from Sylvia's. And it was funny, for the one time in my life, I felt bad being Hispanic. Because as influential I felt that our business was in the Hispanic community, not one Hispanic leader came to support us. Not one spoke out. But yet there was Sylvia's. I said, listen, we're here, whatever you want. And if I would have known now what I know now, if I would have known it then, I would have sued Major League Baseball and the rest would be history. Because, this discrimination that they have against us, it's mind-boggling.
That's crazy because if you think of the sport, it's dominated by Latin American and Hispanic players.
Yeah.
Right. So where would they?
Where would they eat? Where
Exactly.
would they take their family? Where would they feel comfortable? Oh, in the Radisson. Yeah, because we're going to go downstairs and have some sandwiches or just, in other words, not for nothing. Our food is made from scratch. It's fresh. The service, the hospitality, the music, the environment, the energy. So you have all the money in the world. Where you want to go? Where you don't feel comfortable or where you do feel comfortable? Where would you want to visit? But you feel like all the prejudice, like you see all the checkpoints. Checkpoints are not below 96th Street. They're above 96th Street. So you look at the discrimination on you cross the bridge, they waited for you over there, they waited for you over there, get on the highway, get out of here. In other words, it happens still to this day. In other words, it's a crime. It's a shame what happens.
Do you feel that, taking a detour, the restaurant industry, just the nightlife in New York City, I feel like even before Corona, it is dead. And I feel like, all of the clubs closed, La Marina closed, the gentlemen's clubs closed, all of that. And I just feel like New York has become so buttoned up. And you go to other places like Atlanta. This is why Atlanta is thriving. Miami is thriving. It's
Houston.
like they letting things happen where New York has just become so buttoned up that nothing's going on anymore. It's lost its culture.
And we don't have no voice. In other words, right now, we have a problem. We have no voice. If something happens at one of our establishments, we have no one to support or stand up for us. If there's something happened today in a Hispanic community, the best we got, in my opinion, is Fernando Mateo. The best we got is Fernando Mateo. And AOC. So what happened to the rest of our leaders? What happens to our businesses? In other words, if something happens in the Hispanic community, we have no leadership. But something happened in the Black community, Al Sharpton's right there. So he's going to put the brake right on him and say, slow down, you ain't doing this. You understand? So we got to change the mentality of what's going on. Our businesses are suffering right now. The culture from the top down is like the abuse of power. You shut down the city of New York's, the restaurant industry, the hospitality, busboys, waiters, cooks. You name everybody in our industry suffered this whole year. Why? But you can go to Yonkers and party. You can go to Mount Vernon and party. But right now, why are you holding us down? Why are you holding us back? Because it ain't based on the science. So the governor has a problem with the mayor. So why are we being kicked around? Why are we being abused because of it? Right now, Friday, New York City is going to 50 and the state is going to 75.
Yeah.
Why?
Capacity.
Yeah, 75.
Based on what science? It's just
random.
Right.
Yeah.
This whole thing has been extremely random. The governor of Texas just decides Corona's over. No masks required. We're done
No
with
mandates.
it. Atlanta never had
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
They've been done with it for months. 50%, 25%, 70. It's like they just throwing out a number.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. 75. Let's go for it. Let's see what happens.
At the end of the day, it's challenging, and those that stay with it are going to win. In other words, my advice to everybody out there is hang in there, yo. It's gonna get better. It's gonna get great. This was just a course we took in life that's gonna strengthen us. I mean, whether you bowed out and failed, get back in it because this is going to turn around. This is going to be amazing. There's going to be a lot of great opportunities. You're going to learn from the mistakes that you took for granted. Now to take advantage of them. You're going to do great coming out of this. I mean, I'm looking forward to going around the world with this.
Yeah. I mean, there's two things there. Number one, you've been in the game so long that you've probably seen almost everything, and now including this. I can't imagine anything else that you haven't seen. But going back, you said that you were working with Sylvia's. And that's interesting too, because you both are in the restaurant field, but you're not looking at each other as competitors.
Oh no, we're family.
You're looking at as family.
Listen, I'll go in, I'll tell them, listen, you got to change your computer system. I'm gonna get you some equipment. You need to do this, and Van and family and Sylvia. That's what we do. I go to the Heights and do the same thing.
Is that common in this game? Because I feel like, when you have restaurants, it's like, this is my competition. If there's a dynamic of people or a culture of people that are going to these restaurants, it's looking like, well, you're taking away from my customers. But what changed in your relationship to say, you know what, we're family, we're going to do this together, let's all rise?
Oh, you look at opportunities, like the opportunities that are out there for everyone. Like, in other words, the podcast industry. There's but so much you can do. Let's teach one, let them grow, show them the tricks. It's like going to school. What we're doing right now is I'm going to school. I'm the teacher. I teach the students. So if I learn something quick, I give it to them. Now they give it to their kids, and they help the industry change and evolve. We're responsible. Like, one of the biggest problems we have right now in this day and age with this young men and women, I blame us. I blame us as adults that didn't put our foot up their ass, because that's what happened to us growing up. In other words, your biggest fear growing up is if they told your parents you were going to get whooped. Like, in other words, you embarrass me, I'm going to, you got in trouble. Back then, now it's like, there's no one to tell these young men and women, hey, you can't do this. That's not how you do things. So we're going to have to step up our game and grab them under the wing and say, yo, slow down, chill. This is how you build a restaurant. This is how you build a clothing store. This is how you build a label. This is how you do a studio. You got to teach everyone. We got to share our information. We got to share our contacts, and we got to help each other. Like, I do a lot of consulting all the time with restaurants, and I'll tell guys, listen, I'll come in and I'll assess your whole restaurant, and I'll look at your sales, and I'll look at your nightlife, and I'll look at your equipment, and I'll look at your habits, and this is what I'm going to charge you. And the money, you pay me 10, I'm going to save you 100. And this is how easy it is. I'm going to show you how easy it is. I'm going to just save you 10 in a minute. And I'll just show them, they'll be like, but I'm okay, because they're going to be able to grow. And each one helps each other. We're going to grow together as one big family.
So let me ask you this. As far as, we've interviewed a few restaurant owners, and everybody has different philosophies as far as what makes a restaurant successful, because I think it's like 95% failure rate for restaurants. It's extremely tough business. Food costs, shout out to Derek Falcon. He's the first person that actually broke down food costs. Chef Calvin talked about food costs also. Food costs, extremely important. Managing systems, things of that nature. So what is some like commandments that a restaurant has to have in place in order for it to be successful based on your experience?
Team. There's no I in team. If you don't have a great team around you, you're going to, like a basketball team, you can't succeed. You can't win that championship. You need a forward. You need a center. You need the team. Baseball, the same thing. You need the best of the best. So if you're going to do something small, make sure you have a good team. I mean, you want to have someone that understands the kitchen, but you cannot let that front of the house rule the back of the house. The back of the house can't rule the front of the house. It has to flow. And a lot of times what we have is a great cook that doesn't listen to the clientele. You understand? Like, you think that your food, like, in other words, for example, you're going to put a menu together. First thing to do is sit down with 5 or 6 foodies, people that know food, and tell the chef, prepare that dish 5 times for 5 people, and we're going to critique protein, the vegetable, the salad. We're going to critique the presentation, the flavors, the layers. Know and learn. Like, in other words, keep going to school, keep learning, keep putting people in your life that can help and support you. So, for example, if tomorrow I decide to open up something other than a restaurant business, I'm going to hire the best person that does that. I'm not going to turn around and say, well, I'm going to start from ground zero. It's not happening. A lot of times people will open up a restaurant, they'll put everything into this restaurant and then leave no reserve for the next 6 months or a year.
One thing we've learned over the past few years is the importance of building a solid team. And in business, things can get really difficult if everybody doesn't know their role or isn't on the same page. But with Fiverr Business, you get access to an all-star team of super freelancers, plus all the tools and support you need to easily integrate into your own existing workflow. And their team is amazing. When we needed talent for our digital marketing campaign, we used Fiverr. When we needed talent to launch our TikTok profile, guess who we called? So stop wasting time searching for talent. Leave it to Fiverr Business. No more endless guessing in interviews. Plus, save and share your favorite freelancers for future projects. It's a simple way to set your business up for success and a big win for productivity and collaboration. Look, collaborating online hasn't been this easy since ever. I mean, really, ever. And right now, you can sign up for Fiverr Business absolutely free for the first year. Get 1 year free and save 10% on your purchase on Fiverr Business with promo code EARN, E-A-R-N. Just go to fiverr.com/business and don't forget the promo code EARN. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Head over there now.
So talk about that. Talk about that as far as like, I think that's one of the reasons why restaurants fail because, the business is up and down, and you make most of your money. Correct me if I'm wrong. You make most of your money in a couple of days, like weekends. Or like happy hour, stuff like that. Yeah. You can have ups and downs, but you still got to pay. You got to pay staff. You got to pay security. You got to pay all of these things so you don't have enough money, and then it's like you're bankrupt. So how much money should you have? Like 3 months, 6 months? How much money should you have in savings before even starting a restaurant?
Well, that number is going to depend upon your team, your leadership, your concept, your mission statement, your projections. All of these things are going to determine what you need. Like, in other words, I was in an establishment yesterday where the guy spent $200,000 building a place. And I'm like, I wish I would have known you 6 months ago because it would only cost you $75. So you just put $125 that you didn't need to put into this concept, and that money could have went into the development of the mark, the label, the brand. A lot of people pick a name, but they don't realize that that name's already taken, and now you got to take a step back. So you have to do a lot of work from the very beginning of the inception of the name. Can you own the name? Can you register the name? Can you build a name? Where are you going with your restaurant? Are you looking for a livelihood? Are you looking for long-term? What are the goals? What are you looking to make from this restaurant? Are you looking for just a salary? And then you think about security. Why would you want to build a restaurant that you won't feel safe in yourself? Why would your security need bulletproof vests? Why would they need, like, another? And one of the problems that we have, like in New York City, that we don't have in Florida, just a very simple example. I don't know Atlanta yet, but why can't we have a cop at the front door? Why can't we have a cop at the front door?
You're not allowed to?
No, but you could, because it has a liquor license. But you could have it at Yankee Stadium, Madison Square Garden.
Atlanta definitely has cops at the front door.
And it deters the violence.
Heavily armed.
Yeah.
And it deters the violence. You can't have it in New York. So we got to change little things like this. So we tell the young men and women, you're not coming in here with a weapon. And if you do, you're going to leave in handcuffs. So don't even think about it. So you stop it at the front door. Like when I had Jimmy's, you knew my guys were retired at the front door. They were not street thugs.
This is true.
Yo, we're going to pat you down. And if you got a weapon, you're going to jail. And you knew that if you got stupid, we're going to find you because we got cameras everywhere. And you didn't come in with a... And one of the things we stopped the posses. Like, yo, ain't no posses tonight. We ain't 45th there. We got 10 security. Why would I want 40 of you guys to run my show? It's not happening. Never happened.
Unless it's Terror Squad.
Yeah.
Exceptions to every rule.
Yeah, that's an exception. So when you expanded, what do you, because you moved to Harlem and you had the downtown place. I want to talk about the doggy bar in a sec, but what are you looking for when you're expanding into different areas, right? Is it the prime real estate? And are we trying to own the land or are we leasing the areas?
We want to own the land, but if we can't own the land, we want to go negotiate a deal that the revenue we're going to pay is going to be basically just as much as a mortgage that you're not overpaying. That's one way to look at it. Another way is like you want to find the neighborhood that's going to support your concept. The craziest thing is I opened up Jimmy's downtown on 57 and First. Now, if you look at anybody that lived below 96th Street, they look at you and say, you retarded. How is 57th Street downtown? Is 57th Street downtown?
Midtown.
Yeah, it's Midtown.
Midtown.
Where'd you grow up?
Up here.
All right. Below 96th Street was what?
Midtown.
No, below 96th Street.
Below 96th Street.
What would we call that?
That's Manhattan.
All right, but growing up, if you went above 96th Street,
Harlem.
That's Harlem.
that was uptown.
Yeah, Harlem.
No, where did uptown start?
Well, Harlem starts at 110th Street,
Yeah, but
but
where did uptown start? 96th Street. That's where the money was. That's the nicest houses and properties were below 96th Street.
Okay.
So there was 3 places that we went to growing up as a kid. We went below 14th Street, that's the Village. Below 96th Street, that's downtown. Above 96th Street, we're going uptown. So it was only 3. So when I said Jimmy's downtown, I'm like, dude, that's what we knew. Downtown was below 96th Street.
Okay, I got you.
So-
Got you.
okay. So you were just saying downtown.
Downtown, because that's what you grew up knowing.
Yeah, so it's
It's
just
below Harlem, so it's downtown.
Yeah, if we're
Yeah.
going above 96, we're going to Harlem, right?
Yeah.
So a Jewish lady walks up to me, Jimmy's downtown, Puerto Rican cuisine. She goes, why don't you call it Spanish? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, why don't you just call it a Spanish restaurant? I said, because it's a Puerto Rican restaurant, but wouldn't it be easier for you to call it Spanish? So the problem is, like, when we go out to eat, we don't say, let's go to a white restaurant. We say Italian.
Or
We
Greek.
say Irish
Right.
or Greek.
Yeah.
We call it what it is. So there's nothing wrong with calling it what it is.
So she tried to just lump you in a bucket with Peruvian, Dominican.
Well, when we say
Everything.
Spanish, that's like, it's wrong because Mexican, Puerto Rican.
It's not Spanish.
it's
Too much.
Yeah, it's 2 different cultures.
Yes, Europe is Italian, Russian, and German. It's not European.
Right.
It is what
And
it
it's
is.
not really even a correct word, Spanish, because Spanish is a language. It would be like the equivalent of saying English.
Or it has to, or the origin has to come from Spain.
Well, Spain.
Right.
But
The country.
yeah,
we're not Spaniard. We don't eat
exactly.
the paella the way they eat like a soup. We do it different. So.
Yeah, it's totally different.
You know what I'm saying? It's a funny story. Like, even like soul food. Like, funny thing. I was talking to Van Woods. Ran Sylvia's, and we talk about some restaurant stories. And he opened up Sylvia's in South Carolina,
Okay.
and it failed. And I'm like, why did it fail? He's like, how are you going to teach Southern people?
About Southern
Southern
food.
food. Oh my God. That shit is not going to work. So, like, people said, why don't you open up a Puerto Rican restaurant in Puerto Rico? I'm like, yo, I learned one thing from Van. Don't do that. Don't.
We're not coming that way.
I was going to ask you that actually. I was going to ask you that. It's funny you say that. I was going to ask you if you ever thought about opening a restaurant in Puerto Rico.
And if I did, it would be where the tourists come in.
So
it
I heard-
wouldn't be for the people.
Like by the dock.
Yeah, by the dock.
Old
they
San
go
Juan.
off,
Old
I've
San Juan.
heard Fat Joe say this before. What's your take on it? He said that some Puerto Ricans or a lot of Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico don't look at Puerto Ricans in New York as really Puerto Rican.
No, you call a New York Rican.
Okay.
Like, in other words, you're not one of us.
So it's a disconnect.
It's a whole disconnect. And I think New York and Atlanta, you look at each other different. You're from the South. You're not from the East Coast. Like East Coast, West Coast, you're not. We just don't connect. We create barriers. We create walls that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: as far as like, how difficult was it, or well, this is a 2-part question. If your spots have become like very popular spots, like you said, with celebrities, rappers, all that goes to. What was the marketing? Did you do any marketing, or that was just natural? Well, that's the first question. Yeah.
So marketing then to marketing now. Back then, you couldn't Instagram. You couldn't Facebook. There was none. So it was pretty much flyers and promoting. But the one thing that I learned, like, back in the days was, like, just be genuine. Sell a real, true experience. Because then the cheapest form of advertising is true advertising. When you sell someone an experience, they tell a friend. And they tell a friend. And it goes on and on. And I believe that to this day, tell a friend is the best concept for marketing, because you come in and all of a sudden it's like you want to tell someone to celebrate their birthday. I mean, I remember times I go to the restaurants and I'm like, how many reservations, how many birthday parties we have? Like We have 70 birthday parties tonight. I'm like, oh my God. Like everybody's celebrating their birthday.
And you're gonna shake everyone's hand.
And you're going to dance and you're going to have fun and you're just going to make sure the food comes out on time. And it's just a lot of little details. You got to pay attention to the details.
Yeah.
You know, you have to like put a nice team of people together. Like if I'm opening up a new restaurant tomorrow, I'm looking for my chef. I'm looking at the front of the house. I'm looking at the wait staff. I'm looking at the help in the kitchen. I'm looking at the whole team together. What the food course is going to be. What's the presentation. What's the target audience. One of the things that I did wrong was when I done Coqui, for example, was I built them too close to each other. So when I had...
Which ones?
New Rochelle was the first one. That was the one you couldn't get into if you even dreamed about it because that was just, it was crazy. But then I built, from there I did Astoria. So that took a little bit away because it was too close. So now the people from Queens and Brooklyn didn't come to New Rochelle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because now you're in Westchester and now this is the city. Then I did White Plains. And then I did City Island.
Exactly.
So now I was too close to the mothership and I couldn't be in all of them. And then the people that you bring into the team and partners, if they don't understand to how to take care of your clientele, where they're your family, and you got to make a promise and keep a promise. Like in other words, one thing you have to tell people is like your word is your bond. So if you make a reservation and it's going to be 10 at 6, you can't walk in at 6 with 10 people and I'm saying, I ain't got your table. And, you know, I had a partner that he didn't care. And basically he turned the Don Coqui in Queens into a shit show. You know what I'm saying? And you can't have people that value money more than the concept and what you're selling because then you're going to dilute the brand. You're going to dilute, you know, what people are expecting, and they're going to talk bad about you. And that's what a lot of people do in restaurant businesses. If you don't focus on the food, you don't focus on the service, forget about the happy hour. Happy hour is just part of an experience. So I tell people, listen, if you want to learn how to really do this, go work for somebody that really knows how to do this. Like learn the ins and out of the business. Just don't decide because you can make a cheeseburger, you're going to open up a restaurant. It doesn't work that way.
So as far as balancing it, because your spots is also like a nightlife, especially like the Don Coquis of the world, Jimmy's. Balancing a restaurant with nightlife, how is that?
Decide your audience. Like in other words, I'll give you a perfect example. I love all the new music. I understand all the new music. Do I want to listen to that when I'm having dinner? You understand? You have to have a balance.
Okay.
Like when is too much, too much? I mean, can you listen to hip hop for 3 hours? You know, just straight, hardcore, straight. So,
Right. Okay.
funny thing is like, you know, there was a guy called one of my mentors. I've Robert Isabel was a big mentor of mine. Richard Turley, Ian Schrager, Charlie Rangel, who owns BLS?
I don't know.
Percy Sutton.
Okay.
One of the most amazing
Percy Sutton.
speakers in the world.
I didn't know he owned BLS.
And I was part of the Greater Chamber of Harlem, and I would listen to all my mentors. And this guy, Robert Isabel, they called him the Flower God. And I remember back in the days when I had the salsa Spanish band, and he came up and he's like, the bands can't play 2 sets. They only play 1 set. I'm like, but that's what we do uptown. It's wrong. I'm like, okay, I'll try it. So I booked the band 1 set. He said, you don't introduce him. I'm like, but that's what, no, you don't introduce him. I'm like, well, why don't you introduce him? He says, because you interrupt the flow. You interrupt the energy. People start looking at their watches. I'm like, okay. He says, when they finish, it's only 45 minutes. Not an hour and a half, not because you're paying them for 1 set. No, 45 minutes. And the minute that song is finished, and it better be only 5 or 6 amazing hits. No new songs. And then you go right into the set. I'm like, okay. It changed the whole game in the Heights because now you only book a band for 1 quick show and you were able to bring in different people. So I remember one time I tell one of my DJs, I said, listen, I want you to play some Michael Jackson. He goes, I ain't playing Michael Jackson. I said, you think you ain't gonna play? If you ain't playing Michael Jackson, you know you out of here like right now. I'm like, yo, like you gonna play Michael Jackson. He looked at me like I'm crazy because that's what Robert said I should do.
Yeah.
And it's like the old school. So in other words, you're used to all the new music, but he said, no, you got to give people 20 to 30-minute mixes so that this way they don't get bored.
Yeah, I noticed that was a Don Coqui
That was-
special. They used
Every
to
time we
play-
started rocking, it felt like, oh, they changing the music.
That was kind of annoying to me, I'll be honest with
Yeah.
you, in full transparency, because they would play hip hop, but just enough, and then they went back to the salsa.
I teased the shit out of it, because then when I put it back on,
But it
you
felt-
jumped up and you went crazy. Like,
If we
oh,
being
shit.
honest, like it felt like the Latin music would go for like an hour and a half, and it was like, I don't know one word. Like, I gotta go.
Yeah, but you went to salsa, you went to merengue, and
I
then
was
all of a
trying.
sudden,
I was like-
you start playing some white music, and all of a sudden you go to hip hop, and it's like that whole
like, okay,
little,
here we go.
little flip. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he says, you play this music for 20 minutes, and then everybody goes on the dance floor, goes crazy. Put the heat on. I'm like, but it's. He said, no, put the heat on. They're gonna start sweating, right? I said, 20 minutes.
They gonna go to the bar?
Put a whack ass song. Now they're all gonna run to the bar. And then about 10 minutes later, you put a great song on. And it's like, oh shit. But like I understood because he and Ian Traeger, Studio 54, like he is the god of nightlife. Like that guy knew what he was doing. He knew how to theme the nights, the music, the concept. So I'm like, I got the best teacher in the world teaching me how to play the game. How can I mess up? Like, so in other words, I always said, listen, pick your mentors. Make sure they know what they're doing. Understand what they're teaching you and adapt that of what they're teaching you to what you need to do today. And before you know it, the world is yours. Like right now, if I go to Atlanta, if I go to Miami, if I go to Long Island, who's the best? And I'll sit there. I'll go 2 or 3 nights, take my notes.
Yeah.
I'm like, they don't know what's coming. Because I know everything they're doing wrong. So
yeah.
I'm not looking at everything they're doing right. I'm going to go in there and say, hey, I'm going to do my homework. Like, I'm going to be the student.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the waiter. I'm going to be the host. I'm going to be the manager. But most important, I'm going to be the client, the guy who spends the money. And I'm going to sit with the big willies. And I'm going to sit with the regular folks.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see how they feel. I'm going to see their energy. I'm going to see what's going on in their world. And before you know it, you have a winning, successful hit. What's coming in 2021, Corona taught me a lot. You know what I'm saying? One of the things that it taught me is be closer to my family, my children, my grandchildren. But like, the love of real people that are in your life. But then you got to do your homework and says, okay, I'm busting out. I'm going crazy. And what's coming next? If you thought Jimmy's was crazy, Don Coqui or Sofrito was crazy, what's coming is out of this world. Because I'm already planning it. I'm going slow. I build a foundation. I'm not building it on sand. I'm getting ready. And one of the things in the restaurant or any business, build yourself a good, strong foundation. Because then it's easier to build from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So at the height of Jimmy's, you had celebrities coming in, and obviously that boosted the amount of revenue you can bring in. And then the food became the thing. And so I'm thinking now, especially like in the Don Coqui locations, how profitable is that? Or how profitable are the location? Does it just matter based on where they're located?
No, it doesn't matter where they're located.
It's just going to be a hit? Because I figure like you got, at the height, you had over 300 employees. You have bouncers. You have all this staff that you're paying. And most restaurants, people don't walk into till about 6, 7 o'clock if they don't go happy. Shout out to your happy hour. The $2 drinks during the summer are great. But at what's the revenue model in a good year and in a down year?
For me, it's like if I'm gonna, it's not so much about the number. So it's about what you can offer. So like, let's say if a location could do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, now you have 3 revenues. Then you add in takeout. Then you add in happy hour. Then you add in private events. Then off-premise catering. Then the nightlife. So the more components you could put, the more sources of revenue you can bring in.
Okay.
Now, one of the most important things that you have to understand is you have to sell an experience. And the experience has to be genuine. It has to be real. People have to be able to touch and feel and know that it's real. Because then they'll do the marketing for you. One of the things that I created, like, you want to celebrate your birthday in my place because it's going to be an experience. Like, it's going to be an experience. So at 5 o'clock, I had a seating for 140. It was booked. And guys, you got to get up at 7 because my next group is coming. And then 9 o'clock was my next group, and 11 o'clock my next group, and 1 o'clock was my next group. And I would sit with my daughters, and I'm like, what are we doing today? Give me them lists, okay. And who's running late? No. You got to tell them that they got to be up and we get their food out like now. Like you create such an experience, but people want to celebrate because it was happy birthday. It was happy birthday. The music played was happy birthday song. Then another happy birthday song. And people just felt like part of one big family. You create an experience. I think now post-COVID, what's going to happen is outdoor is going to blow up. Like whoever has the nicest outdoor experience is going to take advantage of this market huge.
Earners, the year is almost halfway over. Do not miss this opportunity to scale to the next level. EYL University is the biggest institution when it comes to business online, period. We have ramped up things in 2021 with over 20 affinity groups, including our breakout crypto club, which is fastly becoming one of the top online communities for cryptocurrency information. It also includes MG the Mortgage Guy's Home Buyers Blueprint Volume 1. It also includes monthly financial planning calls with yours truly. It also includes our book club, our movie club, access to our private Facebook group with over 6,000 members, access to over 100 past webinars, and access to weekly webinars from industry experts. All that and more for a limited offer of 60% off. That's right, 60% off of the annual tuition. Go to EYLUniversity.com right now and become an earner.
So now that things have changed as far as like, how has that shifted your business, not only with COVID, but just in general, as far as like marketing? Like you said, now it's social media, now it's influencers. Like influencers is like more important than rappers or entertainers these days.
Baseball
like,
players, I'm sure you may not even know who.
No, nobody knows who any athletes
They
are.
can walk in and nobody.
No. If you're not in the NBA, because NBA players, even if you're not notable, you're tall and you stick out, so it's obvious who you are. But that still doesn't really mean anything these days, unless you're like a celebrity NBA player.
But it's even tough, even then. Like I went to a restaurant, and there was 4 Knicks players, and you wouldn't even know.
They have the mascot, right?
Yeah, well, I was like, oh, I know them because I follow sports, but like they sit next to the table right next to you.
Yeah, athletes aren't moving the needle these days. Rappers, but only a select few rappers. But influencers are moving the needle a lot. So, are you marketing on social media? Are you marketing to influencers? Are you marketing bartenders?
Star tenders.
Come
on, Jimmy.
It's crazy because star tenders, I'll tell you a funny story. So now, what changed in the nightlife?
What you asking the question?
Yeah, I'm asking you a question. What do you think changed in nightlife?
A lot of things changed, but bartenders definitely changed
First bottle service.
Bottle service changed everything. That changed the whole world.
Well, the bottle service was around with Jimmy's because you got a section of VIP if you were buying 4, 5, 6 bottles.
But that's
everything became VIP.
Bottle service used to be exclusive.
Right.
Then it became mandatory. You can't get
Only
into a club unless you're buying a bottle.
All right, but what changed the most? Let me see if you...
I would say bottle service.
From club to what?
Oh, club to like lounge. Like a...
No.
What?
Club to strip club.
Oh, yeah, strip club.
So growing up, right, going to a strip club was frowned upon. It was like looked at as a no-no. You don't go to the strip club with your girlfriend.
Right, yes,
you don't go to the strip club with your sister.
Especially in New York. In New York, yeah.
Like that was looked upon like, you don't go to a strip club? Like, yo, who goes to strip clubs? Then all of a sudden the clubs disappeared.
And the strip clubs
And then
the
all of
only
a
option.
sudden, it's all the strip clubs. And all of a sudden, it's like, if you didn't go there with how many stacks to throw, and you didn't buy like, how many bottles? The Sue's Rendezvous, the one in the Bronx, you looked at all the strip clubs.
Sin City.
Gone. Aces, all of that.
Like everything was like, so now you don't go to a club on a Friday, Saturday night, where you go to a strip club. And the girls enjoyed throwing money at the girls. Back then it didn't look like. So then that's how the clubs disappeared in our communities, because then the strip clubs started getting closed down.
But then the strip club started to close.
Yeah.
Right. But why did they get so? Because they catered to a certain audience that bought in violence.
Yeah.
And now the strip clubs are closed, and that's now where the lounges and the
clubs
clubs are coming back.
And the restaurants
Coming back.
Yeah.
Because before you couldn't open up a club because nobody came.
Yeah, the bottle service, the VIP was one thing, but then the entire club became VIP, and now you're just standing there back to back with your friend, like, hey, you want a drink? These guys popping bottles behind you. It just was like, why are we here? We're just standing here.
Yeah, but what he said about the strip club thing is very poignant, and because in Atlanta, it's been a part of the culture, Southern culture, for a long time.
Yeah.
They break records down there. Like, you listen to a new record, it got to be played in the strip club first before.
First. That's what Fat Joe would do. Like, Fat Joe would be like, yo, we got to drop it in all the strip clubs because if all the strippers are dancing to it, it's a hit.
Yeah.
But now it's like social media, but the strip clubs changed the whole game. But what happened was the violence shut them all down. Everything, you see how few are left.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how good the wings are.
In New York, yeah. Once the clubs closed in New York, the strip clubs became the only option. Then, like you said, shootouts and stabbings and violence. Then that got shut down. And then
Corona.
And then Corona came.
Yeah. Basically, that's how it happened.
Now they have the underground strip clubs. They have, like, everything's happening underground. And so you think they're really going to stop it? But I don't know. But I think that the next big move is going to be, like, now that the city opened up and allowing outdoor, it's changing people. But I was talking to one of my friends. He's a captain in the 434. And he's like, the problem that we see is going to develop is people now learn how to party outdoor. They don't need to go to a club.
Until it gets cold.
Going to change.
Well, that was La Marina.
Yeah.
That was the allure of La Marina, was that you in New York City, but you feel like you in Miami. Like, you know, you got the water, you got sand. Yeah, it was
in a yacht.
It was a vibe. That whole Dykeman Strip was a vibe.
It was amazing. It was like the whole strip was like a whole. Now, so what's going to be the next new move? It's going to be interesting. This 2021 is whoever prepared to come out.
I think Jimmy knows what the next move is.
Oh, yeah, it's happening. It's in the works. It's in development, under development right now.
And you know, it's interesting because it's like, I remember when La Marina first started to pop, and I heard about it. I think if I really heard about it when Jay-Z went, this was years ago. Like, they was like, Jay was in La Marina. It was like every weekend I was hearing about La Marina, and at that time, like, it was all the way uptown, so it was kind of out the way. And location wise, you wouldn't think that would be the best location, but it ended up working out.
Yeah, it was. I would pull up all the time, but
so location isn't really location isn't always the most important factor. If you can make something hot, they'll come.
Energy.
Like even Sue's Rendezvous was in Mount Vernon. You know, for us, I mean, that's hometown, but people in the city, they look at Westchester like that's upstate.
That's uptown. That's really uptown.
That's upstate.
Oh yeah, we upstate. The Bronx is uptown and Westchester's upstate. You're right.
Yeah. So
and now it's cool to live upstate because nobody wants to live in a box room in the city. So now everybody's looking for properties upstate. But you know, the fun thing about upstate, and it's not upstate, it's Westchester County, is there's no places to really party.
No. That's why down Coqui was important. Because before you came, it was Pearl. And Pearl was official. We had the 2-for-1 drinks in there. And then they shut that down because I guess, again, maybe the clientele of people that were coming in. But then down Coqui came and it was like, all right.
But you know what happened?
We got something again.
Shout out to my man, Kev Vega, party extraordinaire, promoter. But anytime in White Plains, because it's so oversaturated with restaurants. I know when a restaurant's in trouble when they start throwing parties. This is before Corona, obviously, but they would do parties for a couple of months, and then it'd be like a stabbing or something like that, and then the cops would come shut it down. But I knew that the only reason when they were doing parties is because they wasn't making enough money.
It doesn't matter at that point. Yeah. Like I see in this industry, and it messes it up for our community. Perfect example. You just said, you know, I had a place in White Plains, down Coqui up there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was going to be like the next best, most amazing thing. But the town is racist. You ain't like they don't want people of color to go up there and party. So they have checkpoints everywhere you go. So you get a couple of checkpoints, you ain't going back. One guy gets arrested, kills your business. So at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? I stay away from upstate and little towns because little towns have people that they'll come after you. They'll shut you down. They don't. I mean, and that's around America. I'm not going to say just New York City. Anywhere in this world, like you go to Jersey, Connecticut. If you don't really, you're not an influencer. You're not down with the town. They'll shut you down real quick. Yeah. You know, and if you're of color, you're even faster. You're going to get shut down. But one of the biggest problems that we have is that when somebody's doing bad, they think that the way to get out of the debt is to bring in promoters. So what's the problem with a promoter? Promoter doesn't care. He has no investment. He makes his money today. He's in. He's out. Have a nice day. So if your capacity is 200 and he brings in 500, what does he care? He makes more money. You feel better that you made more money. But you have an incident, the cops walk in, you over capacity, all of a sudden.
Shut
you
down.
So, there has to be like, it's a double-edged sword. You got to know what you play with. And when these places, they do these parties because they know they got 4 months. They're going to go to the last day. Now, that sets a stigma for the next person. So that's where we hurt each other, because if something is out of line, shut them down. Like I says, club owners, guys, you feel that the cops are against you, but do you know who's on the community board? No. Do you know who the precinct commander is? No. Have you ever met with them? No. You wait to meet them when they're coming down on you to shut you down. You ain't do your homework. So if you're going to open up an establishment, know your neighbors, know the community board leaders, know the police department, hire a retired cop. Listen, blue on blue is different. If they don't know you, they can come after you. But if you have a bulletproof vest, it ain't going through you. So hire someone that can help you. So hire people, know your team, know what you're going up against. If you don't do your homework, you're going to get hurt. Don't call it after the fact. Like if you look at the Heights was out of control for a very long time. You walk into these places and I'm like, how did this happen? Like, and then all of a sudden they all got shut down. And it was only a matter of time. So you have to know what you need to do in every neighborhood. But, if you're of color, you're more likely that they're going to attack you than if you're American and you're white or you're a retired cop. Listen, there's just different sets of rules.
Did you ever think, all right, I'm just going to keep it strictly a restaurant and not have that nightlife component as part of the establishment?
Yeah, because right now is... Like if you're going to go out for dinner and you have, like I'm building outdoor spaces where you're going to have dinner and you're going to enjoy your music and your space and your friends. So you're going to build something different for the day and age of people that we're living with today. You know what I'm saying? So it's that big nightlife, went to a small nightlife, went to a strip club. So what's going to be the new deal? It's going to be with social distancing. A lot of people are not going to take the vaccine for I don't know what reason. I already had corona. I went through it. It was tough for me. And a lot of people enjoying privacy because we moved so recklessly, so fast before corona. Now we slow down. We like our company. We pick our company now. So we're going to go to places that we feel that the energy in the room is good and we can have our own different little parties. And I think that's going to be the move moving forward.
So part of it, and you said the word development, during this whole process, you started your own construction team. You want to talk about that?
I've always loved building things, and I've had the fortune of having some great designers in my life, from Alon Wattsburg. He did Cafeteria, Republic, Bond Street, W Mexico, So he's like a design interior guy. And once he tells me how to design it and do it, then I get my Chinese crew and we just make it happen. And it's like the one thing I'm going to tell you in the restaurant business, the most important thing when you're going to build a restaurant anywhere in this world, do not do it without a plan. The biggest mistake restaurant owners do, and people in even homes, like just if you have a dream, put it on paper. Make the mistake, erase it. It costs you a lot less to do it this way than to turn around and say, well, I have an idea. I want to put a lamp over here and this over there and this over. No, get a rendering. Spend the money on a designer, an architect. Look at it before it's going to open and change whatever you're going to change now. Don't waste the money. Trust me. I've done this so many times. It's cost me millions of dollars to turn around and think that I know. No. Put it on paper, because then you can cost the material, the labor. A contractor's not going to rob you. He signed on a dotted line. Don't give a contractor too much money. Buy your own material if you can. Pay him weekly and don't let him rip you off. There's a lot of bad people out there. Trust me. I deal with them all the time. I don't deal with them. I know who they are. Like, you can see those are weeds and this. But design it up front. Like anything in your life, put it on paper, design it, see what it's going to cost you, and spend some money. Hire someone that can consult. There's a lot of great consultants out there that will save you so much money. You think up front is going to cost you? No. Once you go down, that's a money pit. When you start building these places, they become money pits, and it doesn't make sense.
So you had spoke about before, like the way that the cops had treated different, like when you started the soul food restaurant as opposed to the Latin restaurant. Talk about that a little bit.
Whew. It's listen. So I'm from the Bronx. I'm Puerto Rican. My grandchildren are black and Puerto Rican. I have Dominican grandchildren as well. So you can't tell me like I shifted one way. Listen, we're all brothers. So at the end of the day, when I have black cops and white cops looking at soul food restaurant differently and treating me differently and acting different towards people that you work with, but you can't party with, you can't be in the same restaurant with, it exists. We can't say it doesn't exist. You know what? I am racist to people that are violent. I'm racist to people. I don't care where you're from. I don't like people that are violent, dangerous. You understand? But you can't judge people because the way they look and call them different. You understand what I'm saying? So they treated me different all because I said, you know what? A great soul food restaurant with music and a little bit of everything. That's what we do every day anyway. Yeah. I just changed the name. Yeah. All of a sudden I changed the name. I'm different. I'm not different. I did the same concept. I did a little Latin food and I did a little soul food. What's the difference? Why was I treated different? Listen.
That was Don Coqui turning into Get Soul.
Get Soul. And the Bloods and the Cribs, they came to the place and I'm looking at them from one side to the other. I'm like, guys, this is neutral ground. We don't fight here. I don't care what you guys do outside. Yeah. I don't judge and I can't judge you. But here, this is my house. This is my living room. You got to be fair. You got to be right. You got to, we got to treat each other brothers and sisters. A couple of fights, it was just out of control.
It was a nice situation.
It was beautiful.
It was a beautiful situation. You had a nice VIP room. The food was great. The music was great. I actually liked it a little bit more than the Don Coqui White Plains. You had the upstairs, downstairs if you had to do brunch during the day. So it's unfortunate that happened.
Fortunate because I got a great experience and I could still do it again. And I see myself sometime in the future doing another soul food Latin restaurant combo because I got it under the wing. I took the course, I got the class, and the demand is there. The demand is there. Like I've seen some soul food restaurants that I've never taken it to that level. I already see what's missing, so for me, it's an advantage.
Did you tap into the Sylvia's team when you ventured into soul food, or now is it your direct competition?
No, they never. There's no competition.
Not competition, but
that's my family. Those are my family. Anything they need, they can call me tomorrow. I'm like, yo, I'm there. I'll help you out, whatever you need. I hired a soul food chef. Because I think everybody has their own chefs and then you have to tweak what the chef is going to do because just because you know how to cook soul food doesn't mean is that what everybody's going to want. So you got to tweak that, and that's how you learn these things. But I think that a great soul food with a bougie nightlife would be a great hit in New York, anywhere in this world. Like really work.
Yeah, I definitely would because there's not really too much like that going on.
No, what we really need? What's the Indian cuisine?
Oh,
high class.
I love.
The grill is nice, but it's only in the city. So we need something out here.
I love West Indian food. You don't understand. I'm a food. I love great food. I love like when chefs present food and the taste is. But the energy, it has to be
a vibe. It gotta be a vibe.
That's what we need. That vibe. We need that vibe.
Yeah, I mean the tough spot is difficult. Because it's like, how do you really control it? You try to do dress code, but there's no dress code anymore. So that went away. You do the eye test. The eye test leads to just racism on a whole different level and complaint. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I see it from both perspectives because I've seen places where they're like, yo, no sneakers, you can't get in. And every single person that's white in there has sneakers on.
And the sneaker that you got $1,500, $20 loafers.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Yeah. So how do you do that? How do you control crowd? Like, because like I said before, you could just do dress code, but there's no more dress code. So how do you control the crowd?
Well, easy. Music.
Oh. Okay.
You set the tone. Yo, listen, okay. So I tell club owner, all right, liquor license is till 4:00 in the morning. Okay. When should you change the music? At 3:59?
No.
You understand? So if you go from hardcore to bougie dancing to slow and sexy to turning on the lights, people leave in this tone. But if you leave with, and listen, we all know the great DJs of New York City and the world. If you bring that DJ in at 3:30 to rock out for that last half hour, I need a bottle. And what are they doing with the bottles? They're chugging it. If you look at the most violence in the clubs anywhere in this world, and I'm talking about anywhere, and this is like science, it's half hour before you close to an hour after you close. Why? The juice kicks in. Now, what you do? You just set yourself up for failure. So what do? The hardest music, if I close at 4, it ends at 3. Then at 3 o'clock, you do a little salsa, a little merengue. People start bugging out like, yo, I want to go hardcore. You don't bring them, because you're going to create a problem.
I just thought about something. I just had a great idea. So when we go to Atlanta, shout out to Alex Good Energy. He always brings to this party called R&B only party. And they only play R&B. And it's a vibe. And it's an R&B. So it's not like,
No violence.
No violence. We should do Earn Your Leisure. We should have a night. We should collaborate on a night.
And bring
Pick
in
a
a
night.
DJ.
R&B. It's only R&B.
R&B.
Only R&B. It's a vibe.
No, but I think, listen, if you do R&B,
that'd be
you do
dope.
a little freestyle, you do a little house, you do a little like old school hip hop. Listen, I always tell, it's funny because back in the days, I'm like always fighting with Joe. Joe's my little brother. Like, I love Joe. Joe's like, he's family. I mean, he's been to my daughter's weddings, like everybody knows him. And I always say, listen, Joe, all my friends love you because they met you, but your music is too hardcore. You need to start doing some hip hop with dance. And all of a sudden, what do you think? He changed and he flipped.
The light.
And then all of a sudden, it's like every year he has a hit.
Yeah.
And what is it about? Dancing. It's not about violence.
No.
All of it is like everybody started changing the vibe. So if you did a hip hop show, it has to be a dance song. It has to be positive energy. That's where the R&B kicks in. That's where a little bit of everything kicks in. It's all about the energy you bring to the table.
And then we promote it because everybody that follows Earn Your Leisure is positive. It's a business platform.
Yeah.
We play the good R&B music. We have
All R&B. We don't even need rap.
Well, like he said,
No,
some
dance,
90s, some
that-
90s. You can mix it in. You can mix it
There's
in
so
with a
many
vibe.
R&B hits. We can take.
Oh no, but that's too like, and then it's like you got to mix. I'll say, listen. I tell everybody, listen, mix it up. But you have to know if, like you said, if I only played a little bit of hardcore hip hop, that's it. I go like this.
2 songs. That's it.
That's it. Just do the 2. That's it. But it kept everybody like the one thing I learned is body energy. Everybody's chill. Like the fun part about being in the restaurant at Don Coqui is like I'll be on my DJs and I'll be like, and they knew like they gotta change it up because if I see the energy in the room change, I change. My mood change. I want to work like I'm happy, I'm good. Everybody's moving, they're dancing. Like the nicest thing that I see in my world is when I see people dancing at the table and they're eating. That's fun. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy.
We've been known to dance on the table.
EYL. We're about to help bring New York back, man. Once this Corona thing is over, I think
We're gonna have an Earn Your Leisure night.
I know. I'm dead
that's
serious.
done.
I'm
That's
dead
done.
serious. No, I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
I'm dead
We coming.
serious.
I know, but it's
done.
gonna be that night. We're gonna set it
It's
up.
gonna
We're
be a
set it up.
vibe. It's gonna be a vibe.
Yes.
Needs to happen. So, what's your visions moving forward? What's on your plan for the next 5 years, 10 years, 1 year? What are you looking forward to in the future?
Well, first and foremost, I'm just happy to have made it through this Corona and stay healthy. And one of the very important story in my life. So I have this young, crazy daughter. Her name is Joelle. And crazy because she reads, she knows a lot. And one day, about 7 years ago, we were by the pool. And she's reading a book she loves to read. I ain't reading nothing.
Audio books.
Audio books. So I had 6 months to go before I dropped out of high school, and I went right to work because I was working, I was making money, I didn't think I needed, and I was on top of my game. At the point, 7 years ago, I was 300 pounds, happy 300, 42, pushing 44. My pants were real tight, and I'm like, I'm not buying 44. So, I've been
Oh,
in
you
the
say you
restaurant business.
42?
Yeah,
42
size
42
waist.
waist?
Yeah.
And you're not going to 44. Got you.
So I'm not going to 44 waist. And
Yeah.
I was very uncomfortable because diets didn't work. Diet pills didn't work. Portion control didn't work. Nothing worked. But I couldn't figure out how I kept staying around that 300 and I kept trying to lose weight. So she's reading the book and I'm like, what's the book about? She goes, Dad, if you ever read this book, you'll never eat the same. I'm like, look, you know, I eat whole wheat, I eat multigrain, I eat brown rice, I eat brown pasta, I do this, I do that. She goes, Dad, if you ever read this book, you'll never eat the same. I'm like, so I'm not going to argue because she's going to win. Learn one thing about women. Don't fight.
You got
Listen, you got it. Everything was fine. So, you know, this is July and August, and she decides to buy me something for Christmas. And I open up the present, and I'm like, she knows I ain't going to read the book.
What's the name of the book?
Wheat Belly.
The Wheat Belly?
Wheat Belly by William Davis. So I take the book in CDs, I put it in the first CD, and the guy says, listen, go home and look at the album of your grandparents and see if anybody was overweight. Did your mother own a pair of sneakers? Did your mother exercise? Did she ever do anything but vacuum the house? And was there any nutritionist? There's no. I'm like, oh shit, sounds interesting. So I turned around, I put the CD in, he tells me how they modified wheat. So it doesn't grow 5 feet, it grows 18 inches and everything is thick. And everybody's now is thick. And now there's blood pressure, diabetes, blood cholesterol, and how the FDA and everybody's selling all this processed junk food, this, that, whatever. I went home, emptied out my cabinets, and 5 months later, I lost 70 pounds. And I've been 220, 225 for the last 7 years. I have more energy now than ever. I feel great. I eat clean. And I just remember one thing. If the secret to life is listening to your parents and look at the way they ate growing up, there was no supermarket. It was all market. Mm-hmm. Whatever was fresh, we ate. And we ate as much as, whether it was potatoes, whether it was rice, whether it was avocado, yams, whatever, we ate it. And nobody was sick. Now everybody's sick. So they're not going to try to change your diet. They're going to try to give you medication to keep you alive. Mm-hmm. So one thing is, health is wealth. And if you're going to change your lifestyle and you want to feel better, I personally believe gluten-free is the way to go. No wheat, no rye, no barley.
So that's the only thing you just stopped eating gluten products.
I drink every day. I don't exercise. I don't go to the gym. I don't do no diet pill, drugs, or anything like that. And I maintain my weight. And, you know, I feel amazing. I have more energy now in this point in my life than I had 20 years ago for 20 years. So I'm just like, losing weight without dieting is amazing. Like, could you imagine, like, losing 20 pounds in a month without having a diet, exercise? And you can have a little bit of a drink or two here or there. But listen, Wheat Belly, you know, that one book changed my life. And then the other day, I don't know if you were, What the Health was crazy. Another movie on Netflix. It's crazy. The information is power.
There's a great book called How Not to Die. You read that book? Yeah. She's on it.
Yeah. No, listen, health is wealth. And you want, listen, what good is it having what we have, you know? I remember having this conversation with Khalid because his wife, Nicole, is gluten-free because she has celiac. And he's like, I should know that. And Joe, another one, I fought with Joe to listen to the book. I gave him the audio books. He's like, nah, my doctor says, no, don't do this, don't. And guess what? He did it. He's like, dude, I lost more weight in 1 month than I did in 6 months.
We're talking about that.
What isn't gluten? What's gluten? What exactly is that?
Gluten is a protein found in wheat, rye, and barley. So it triggers your exorphins in your mind to make you want to eat more and makes you feel better. So you're eating breakfast thinking about lunch thinking about dinner. And the minute you taste it, like I have gluten-free pasta, gluten-free bread. I fry my food in the restaurant, believe it or not, with almond flour, rice flour, I'm sorry. So we don't really I don't like processed food. So I'd rather not give that to my clientele. And it tastes so much better when you're really putting together good food, you know what I'm saying? So that's really one thing that changed my life, that gives me the energy to do what I do. Because if not understanding what you're serving, it's easy for you to sell. But once you know quality food, your clientele knows, because you always focus on the quality food. You go shopping for it, you serve it, you know what it is. J-Lo, I do a lot of catering for J-Lo, and I'm like, Jay, you know I'm gluten-free. She goes, I understand. Now you can serve me. Well, the people come like, oh, she wants to have dinner. When? Today? Oh, I'm like, okay. I bring the food. She knows that it's gluten-free. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to work
Another
hard.
J-Lo connection.
You want to work smarter.
Yeah. We actually sat down with one of her chefs, Chef Kelvin.
You know him?
Yeah. He's good.
Yeah.
He was good, but I've been cooking for a
long time.
Whatever.
He's much younger than us.
Kelvin's a great chef.
Yeah,
he's a great chef.
Jimmy, it's been a pleasure, bro.
It was mine.
What would you like to tell the people? How can they find the information on your restaurant, social media, website, and all that stuff?
The easiest way to find me is Jimmy's BX Cafe on Instagram.
Okay.
You could DM me if you're looking for any consulting, any ideas you want to run by me. Within 30 days, we're going to announce a new restaurant. And if you're in New York, you won't be disappointed. It's going to be amazing.
Looking forward to
And you can catch us there.
Looking forward to that EYL night.
Yes,
Exactly.
that's the best. I can't wait. I can't wait.
That's a
Ooh,
fact.
that's going to be big.
Yes.
Troy, housekeeping items?
Yeah, shout out to everybody on patreon.com. Y'all know that's our Proud to Pay program. Obviously, Tier 5 members, you have access to EYL University, the #1 place for everything.
Jimmy's son is a member.
He's a member, right? Yeah. He's an
fact.
official earner.
What's his
There you
name?
go. Jonathan.
Shout out to Jonathan.
Listen, shout out to Jonathan, okay? Because your dad's a legend and now you're a legend.
He's still selling those sneakers?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
He's a sneakerhead.
In the restaurant, he sells them.
Hey, Jonathan, this is Troy from Earn Your Leisure. I'm a diehard sneaker guy. Shout out to you. And obviously, everybody that's been supporting EYL University, we thank you greatly. All our earners. Keep telling a friend to tell a friend, man. The group is spreading. Shout out to all of our people that are inside there, all the triads that are in there, all the accountability groups, man. It has really grown to a place that we are proud of and get to witness on a daily basis. So shout out to all the earners in there, and shout out to everybody supporting the merch. I can't say enough, man. Y'all really have turned Earn Your Leisure into a worldwide name. So we are forever grateful and thankful for that.
Yeah, and this just happened. We didn't plan for this to happen, but I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and Earn Your Leisure is not only the biggest platform in America business, but it's probably the biggest platform in Latin America too. We've reached the #1 charts in Dominican Republic.
Fact.
We've charted in Puerto Rico.
Fact.
We've charted in Colombia, I think.
Fact.
Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying that, it's really not like a comparable resource for the Latin community, like how we have. And I was telling him I wanted to do more content with Latin entrepreneurs, Latin investors, and even eventually Latin content actually spoken in Spanish.
Exactly.
And so he gave me a list of a bunch of different people. We already had a lot of people with Latin backgrounds, but so yeah, we're looking to do more with the Latin community, because I feel like, in my opinion, and I was talking to him, and he was like, "Nah, you're right, bro. Like, there's nothing like EYL for the community."
We got some stuff brewing too.
Oh, we got a lot of stuff. EYL Espanol was supposed to come out with, but we just want to make sure that's correct. But
Yeah.
taking over the whole world, man. So yeah, anytime we get to sit with an entrepreneur, especially a legend, is dope. But to have somebody that is not only a legend but Hispanic icon is dope. It's dope. So looking to diversify the content, so it's important. So yeah, appreciate you, brother.
Great show. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to Earn Your Leisure night. It's gonna be a hit.
It's gonna be a hit. It's gonna be a hit. That's a fact. All right, guys. Thank you for rocking with us. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.